Hello everybody, this is Senex, and I'm going to be bringing you a 1 versus 1 on the 6 mineral, 1 high yield gas map devolution between Rumudiez, the orange Zerg, there we go, and CecilSunkure, the pink Protoss. Man, these guys have the hardest names to say. I kept on trying to turn that into an actual Spanish name, but I somehow don't think that Rumu is particularly Hispanic. But anyway, actually looking at the game, this is a Zerg versus Protoss, as I mentioned a moment ago, and I'm really looking forward to this particular matchup because I haven't been able to get too many of these games. I've been seeing a lot of ZvPs seem to be right now the favored matchup that's going on for this. Looks like this is one of the first games that both these guys have played. This is a part of the Grandmaster links that are available in Baron's thread that he made about everything that he was working on with this particular variant. All props go to Baron, who is the person who did the math to actually look at what would happen to Starcraft 2 if we just toned down how much money was available per base, but made sure that there were a lot more bases available. So we have both players going for, thus far, pretty standard openings at the moment. We have the same number of workers starting to get out the overloads he needs for the supply. Going for an extractor first. No, he's actually not. He's going to be trying to move it out and potentially take the expansion. It looks like he will have enough money if he moves it out before the probe gets into block, but now the probe's going to be a total jerk face and get right in the way, though he does actually have shield damage already, which means that if this drone is able to go one-on-one with him, he'll win. But unfortunately, Cecil does drop that pylon, which blocks off the expansion. Though Rumu will have the Overlord in place to spot. Does that actually finish, or does he cancel it? Because if he doesn't let it finish, though, if he cancels it, he'll be able to move down, immediately take the expansion. Though, wow, what perfect timing from Cecil, though he lets the opportunity go. He could have gone right in and blocked it again, just paying attention to how long it would take for the drone to move down. So still no gas from either player. It looks like our Protoss player is going for the very standard Forge Expand. So there's a very narrow choke right here, and that's definitely the best place for you to be placing your buildings when you're trying to get through. I think that it's 3 building wall offable, though maybe you only need like a gateway and a properly placed cannon or pylon, though I think you probably do need the 3 large building setup. It's dropping the photon cannon right there. Now what our Protoss player is going to have to worry about is in the back there are destructible rocks right here. I haven't yet seen them become too important, but it's this constant threat of you actually need an army at some point, and you can't just rely on having lots of cannons in the front, because eventually the Zerg will get bored, knock those down, go and attack. So Rumu seems to think that this is going to give him a bit of an advantage. Cecil's kind of wondering why, and he does lose that probe, overrun by these Zerglings right in front. He's moving the Queen down so that he might be able to start creep spread, or just have this one pop out pretty much at about the same time as that Larva Inject is going to actually become important. Rumu does think that Zerg benefits from this the most, which I'm not actually sure is true. Dustin Browder, who's the design lead for StarCraft 2, has said that the units in StarCraft are based around their cost, not in like supply or how fast they build. The balance of them is based on cost, which means that when you have 1 high yield mineral and 1 high yield gas and 6 mineral patches, that's an exact 25% reduction in the amount of money that you have available. So even though the number of units that you have on the field is less, it should still be fairly balanced. Now, what might be a much bigger problem for our Protoss player is that this map is very wide open. There's lots of players, or there's lots of ways for the Zerg to get big flanks in between these high ground areas and overrun Protoss who's moving out carelessly around the middle of the map. But right now we do have the metabolic boost on its way. He does have all 3 in gas, which means he's going to be getting this very large swell. Probably going up to lair tech soon, I would think. He's taking a very aggressive third. I like that. That's one of the most important things to keep in mind in this variant, is that you need to take as many bases as you possibly can, because you get 12 workers on this mineral line, get 3 workers in this gas, total 15, you're at your optimal saturation. Get like 2 more to hit probably this patch and this patch, and you're at maximum saturation. Every extra worker isn't doing anything for you. So Zerg's definitely taking advantage of this. He's being very precise about how many workers do I want on here, though he's actually going a little overboard. I don't quite like that. As Zerg, you can very carefully manage and make sure that you only have the optimal number of workers on a base at any given time. Just spend everything else on units or expanding. Metabolic boost is getting close to done. We do have a quick robotics facility on the way. And where is his... Yeah, he's not getting the warp gate research particularly quickly, and he's going to need to start doing something with these probes, because though he has actually stopped probe production. I like that decision. There comes a point where if you're not planning on taking an expansion soon, you don't want to just be constantly making workers like you do in an ordinary game of Starcraft 2. In ordinary Starcraft 2, you just need to be constantly making workers, because the maximum saturation is like 30 guys on one base. You'll still be getting at least some benefit, but we do have two very aggressive zealots moving out here. I don't like this decision. They just get completely surrounded and overrun. I think he just walked them out hard across the map too. And yeah, there's another one walking to his doom. I don't think that Cecil is paying too much attention with where he's sending those guys. He's gonna want to mass up to some kind of critical mass instead of losing his units one at a time. And that sentry might have to be paying a lot of attention, because there are some zerglings out in front who could just do a straight up run by. Though he is kind of poking around. I really like Cecil making this wall. If he can expand this wall to kind of join up, it'll let him take this third base and not have to worry too much about it. Though he does have to... Oh, that was a beautiful force field right on top of the photon cannon, just to make it so that it couldn't be attacked as easily, but he does lose the sentry, and for about 5 zerglings, I think it's a pretty worthwhile trade. I really like the Overlord positioning by Rumu. There's a nice high ground right here which can be used in both attack and just spotting. You can have Mutalisks or Phoenix or other flying units, even dropships, hanging out over that and just waiting to hop into the natural, but you can also use that to put an Overlord or an Observer over, and there's very little chance they're going to be spotted. So we have our Protoss player also taking his third base. He's going to want to keep an eye on these destructible rocks right here. That is one way that the Protoss player could kind of invalidate... I'm sorry, the Zerg player could kind of invalidate this wall that he started to build, though Cecil hasn't continued it just yet, and I do think that's a little bit ballsy of him, because he only has just a couple units, though. He is going Dark Templar tech with Blink. He's teching extremely hard off of these bases, and thus far both players are actually highly emphasizing macro over any kind of units. There's only 2 Zerglings and now 6 Roaches on the field against 3 Sentries and just 1 Stalker. But we already have 56 probes and 65 workers, and that's an enormous drones. It's an enormous amount when you consider that you really only need 15 per base, maybe a little bit more. Right now, the Zerg player should be at probably 5 bases, but he's still just getting his 4th up, though he will be able to insta-saturate and have it start paying for itself immediately. And you can see there the big drone the big drone transfer moving over, and there we go. Cecil being very clever, putting the 1 pylon there just to make sure that the health on that stays nice and high. You don't have any Zerglings running around trying to take that down. We do have a large number of sentries beginning to build up energy, and the 1 Dark Templar, where'd he put that guy? Still looking around for it. I don't see it. Come on, Dark Templar. You're around here somewhere. Oh, but it's been spotted. Rumu did see it. Probably the Shimmer. It doesn't look like he just has just 1 kill. And now with that Overseer in play, it gets completely shut down. And when you have this reduced amount of money, every unit lost, particularly a very expensive unit like a Dark Templar, is very, very bad. So Rumu has gotten himself up to it. Wow, now a huge supply lead with that big swell of Roaches that he's building. You can see that he has 8 more Roaches in production, is moving on to Infestor tech, is keeping on top of his upgrades as 1 attack, and the Protoss player does not want any part of this fight right now. That 1 Immortal will be sniped down very quickly if the Roaches get involved, though he does get some very good force field, keeping most of the Roaches in back and not doing very much. So it does look like he's going to be... And that was another great set of force field, sectioning off yet more Roaches. And this army is being slowly spooned, as they're referring to with Thorzane now in the Coolcasters Club. The Spoon Terran, just taking small parts of the army, killing it, and then going back in for more. And the exact same thing was happening to Rumu right there. But he is now up to... Whoops. he's up to 17 roaches against just 6 stalkers, 1 immortal, and 4 sentries, though the 6 zealots might be able to take enough damage for that to start to matter. He's taking now the 5th base, really like that, but we have an engagement in the middle right there, and again, he's just consistently getting a couple roaches. He's not trying to get greedy and engage like half the force at once. He takes 3, kills them, takes 4, kills them, and has just been doing that consistently. I love this Protoss play. Cecil's doing amazing force field work, even microing back the sentries that are being targeted down by the roaches now that they're out of energy, and Blink's coming into play, not losing almost any units, and there's a big swell of Blink Stalkers, very aggressive Blink forward, and that was a complete stomp by Cecil, though you will see that now the Infestors are on the field. It's going to make that Blink a lot harder to work with. And Rumu's macro, because he's gotten these 2 extra bases a lot earlier, is really kicking in. He's maintaining a very big supply advantage with 35 supply, or even jumping up higher now. And that's a much bigger deal than you would ordinarily look at in your average game of StarCraft 2. Because on 3 bases, you'd be able to support like 12 warp gates and actually be able to reinforce extremely quickly. But when you're only getting a much more limited amount of money, being at that supply deficit is very painful. And now you can see there's fungal starting in, though that fungal was a little bit wasted. Now we have the zerglings moving in for a great flank, but is it going to be enough? The Blink micro is actually starting up now as the Infestors are out of energy, though yeah, it does look like with those zergling reinforcements, it's going to be a little too pointy for Cecil to stay in this game. Blinking away, leaving the Immortal to his fate. He definitely drew the short stick there. Moving back in to try to snipe that Infestor, but gets microed back. And now we're just down to 6 Stalkers against 15 Roaches, though that big warp in is going to totally save Cecil's bacon. He pushes back that attack, though there are more reinforcements coming in. I don't think he wants to keep pushing here, particularly when that Immortal gets into play. If he can just get rid of those Zerglings, it's going to be very effective for him to be pounding on those Roaches. And yeah, Rumu doesn't want any part of this. There's too much of an advantage.